morning, everybody. Frank and Jackie, hi. I am going to continue with my wolf sculpture, and I just started. I didn't go very far, so I didn't take a picture. I just got involved with just trying to work out these facial forms, and I'll show you in a minute. It's still very, very rough, but what I have is a new set of photos, and it's in the post for anyone who's new here. And I'm using different face angles to now create this realistic, hopefully realistic, little head of a wolf that will go with this this body of a wolf. Let's see if I can get my hands out of the way. I could show you, and it'll be turned slightly, and hopefully very realistic looking. But what I'm going to do right now is get to the close-up view, and we'll get that centered over here so you can see. What I've started to do was just, and they're very rough looking, but I'm isolating the forms on the face. So, and I know I want to have the mouth open on this. So, it's taking shape. Thank you, guys. And you would think because it's small, it could go, some people might think because it's small, it could go faster. But the reality is, let me grab a tool I dropped. The reality is this takes as long as a big one, or maybe even longer, because you're dealing with, let me see if I can light that better for you, very delicate shapes. And every time you make a move, you've got to check the other side because it might distort what you've done on the other side. So the whole time, now you can see my center line is somewhat gone, but I still have, I've made a kind of a partition down the middle of the head, and I know I need my new camera. You guys can just scold me for not putting my new camera on yet. But over the weekend, I hope to really get things moving on this head and take some more pictures, because I didn't get a picture yet to post for where it is right now. And then also kind of maybe holding it with my view so you can see the forms that I've isolated. They look very overly isolated right now, and that's on purpose so I can line everything up, and then I will just take a tool like this angle. Let me just clean the clay off it a little bit. And just, let me see if I can do it without too much blown out highlights at this stage. I'm just going to very carefully, looking at my picture, look at the direction of the fur and very softly just scrape that down and even out those exaggerated sections, those exaggerated forms, until I can see if it's right. If it doesn't look right, I just have to go back in and add a little more clay, a little more padding, and I'm just going to proceed like that. And you would be amazed how when you just create the forms, the basic forms on each side, and they are a little exaggerated at first, as you start to refine them down, and then in the end, you're going to use a soft brush like this and just brush over, and you're going to clean it in between and just brush over your work, and you will have a very refined piece. Now, what I wanted to do this morning, instead of working on this, because I have discovered I really need to work on that, I'm going to put it aside for a minute I have my main wolf out of the camera view right now. I'm going to put that aside, and I've got some warmed up clay over here, and I decided to start to make that base. I was telling you about making a base for the, and let me go grab some, or I can use right here. I'm going to grab maybe that, so I can move it around on top of this, or maybe just like this. What I want to do is not have the base stick to the wood right now. So I have some warmed up clay. Let me go to the bigger view now so you can see what I'm doing. All right, so now I'm going to focus this down just a little bit and get my camera out of the way, the other camera. Put this light so it's not so terrible. And I'm going to make that base I was telling you about, because I think we want to just accelerate where this is all going. And I'm going to just start to put that together here. And I want to be able to peel off. See how I can do that? Peel off the paper, and I could use parchment paper, but I ran out of it, so I'm using aluminum. Another example of how you can just improvise as you go. If you run out of tools that you need, let me get a bigger view here going. Oops, there we go. So I'm just going to start to put this together. I won't get done through this live stream session, but you're kind of going to see my thinking on it. And I have this clay on the least hot setting in my clay warmer here, so I can handle it very well. And just start to build up. As you can see how soft it is. It's really nice to work with. This is just great stuff. So what I'm going to do is just get it set up. I'm not going to actually put the wolf permanently on it yet. But what I'll do is create armature supports like that I can remove because of mold making. So for example, when I get this all together, I'll create armature supports that keep him on his base. But I would not want to have armature going from the leg. You know, all these legs have armature in them now. I wouldn't want it to go if it was all the way through the legs and attached to the base. That might be difficult because of mold making reasons. So I know the parchment paper, I love the parchment paper, but I ran out of it. Oh, I also use it in cooking a lot. I love it. So anyway, I'm just going to kind of create that rock base I had in my mind. Now here's a perfect example of this is now moving into the dimension of sculpture, because I'm just going to imagine this. I'm not looking at anything. I mean, you can have a plan for this for sure, but I just thought it would be fun I'm going to get that all mixed up because some of the oil in the clay from heating it seeps out of it a little bit. So I want to get it nice and reconstituted in my hand. But it's very nice to work with at this stage. As you can see, it's really pliable. So it helps build up your hand strength. You know, all those things that people use to relieve anxiety or build up hand strength. It does both. So just a kind of a rocky base. And you can imagine this in plaster or bronze. I mean, it really does protect the sculpture anyway. But now that I drew that leg up, if anybody's coming on new, now that I drew that leg up like that, it just it can't stand up like it was, which is fine because this is going to be more interesting in a lot of ways. But when you go to mold this piece, you would definitely take that base off and do that separately. But it gives you a chance to have a more exciting finished sculpture too. I don't know if anybody has been into the galleries in the Southwest here where I live in Arizona. Some of the galleries like mountain trails, I mean, you would pretty much never find a freestanding sculpture like that wolf. You would have a base with it. Pretty much always you would see that. But then again, that has to be molded separately. So I'm just getting this all reconstituted because it's been sitting in my tray a long time. But it does a beautiful job. So, okay, and I might pitch it up a bit the way a rock base might look. It might look like that. Just use your imagination at this stage. That's making it more fun too. A lot of the work is very, and you can see I can just peel that off. So it's not I don't want it sticking to my wood. Not at first, because I'm going to figure out how to position it. And I want a flexible situation, so I don't want it sticking. Plus, I'm going to actually embed the wire armature into this and then into the body of the wolf in some way that hopefully looks good while it's being made, but ultimately would not be there in the final piece. So I kind of like him coming down a bit. As you can see, I have that in my mind. So he might be coming somewhat going down. This is just kind of fun. I've been using up my clay here. How will I check the proportions in comparison to the wolf? And I'm not sure the proportions of the base. I mean, all I'm going to do to make sure that it fits. I mean, this is a rock base, so you have a lot of latitude in how you can make it. So we're just kind of making up as we go. And you know, I can look at real rocks. I've done rock bases before, so it's pretty much just a simple sculpture you do with your hands. Let's see. I will just simply, you know, make sure I can, you know, I don't want it that sloped. Maybe not quite that sloped. So I'll bring that up on this side. So just kind of using your imagination for what kind of a ground surface you want this animal to be on, and that could be, you could even add vegetation to this scene if you wanted to. So, you know, you've got a rock, but you could certainly have maybe an old juniper tree branch next to it, and they kind of look cool. They're very swirly. I might even do that just because I just bought it up. But this is what's fun, and this is what makes sculptures. If you use your imagination for at least part of it. But when you have your subject looking very realistic, that kind of transcends the medium. I love that term that an art teacher used once, and I thought, what does that mean? And what that means is you no longer think of this as clay. You now, hi Cindy, good morning. You now think of it as the scene or the animal. You're like transported to a different world. Like I might just do it, you know, like that and have his foot almost over it, or I could have it extend a little bit to protect that foot. I might think about that. Depending on what material you're going to finally have this become. Okay, so say it's going to be plaster. Well, that foot could get banged a lot. It could get broken. Certainly if it was porcelain, you wouldn't want it hanging out there like that. So here's my idea. You know, you have a piece of rock, and it kind of looks a little rocky right now. Yes, sculpture improv. And this is what's fun. So you have your model, so to speak, but you put it in a unique pose. That makes it a sculpture. And now you have your scene. And, you know, maybe this kind of realistic sculpture work has been a little bit out of fashion, but that's because we had very skilled sculptors in Asia, kind of working for American companies. They saturated the market, but they were actually really good, a lot of them. And the sad thing is, people thought it was just kind of made by a machine. And it wasn't. These collectible items were made by real people who were being paid just about nothing, who were very, very talented. And I kind of saw that. We lost our collectible prototype making in the 90s because the companies like Franklin Mint said, oh, let's let the Asian people do all this and do the prototypes. And they did. Alexa, stop. And so there's the end of my alarm. So I hope this comes back. Even if it doesn't, it's a worthy endeavor for people to do. It's a fantastic pastime. And as you can see, let's see if I can hold it all together. We're going to end up with something pretty cool here. And it started with that picture. Think about where this began. It started with that picture, and it's coming to life. It's coming true. And this can happen for you guys too. It's very rewarding to see. There we go. That's a little better. I might extend it a little more that way, just so he fits. Whoops. Let's get him looking good. Like that, I think. Or anyway, you can use your imagination and see where this is going. And I will cut away some of this so I can turn his head a little bit. But that's going to be a pretty cool end result, as you can see. And I would love it if you guys could work along with me. I know that's a harder project. This is, no question. But you're getting to see a lot of things I do, and it was only through practice that I could get as far as I got. So I will say goodbye. My time's up. But thanks so much, you guys, our sculpture club. I am so indebted and feel so glad to know you're there. I'll see you on Monday and hopefully have a lot more done and explain how I did it. Okay, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.